Good morning, everyone. Today is January 11th, 2021. Thank you for tuning in. Jazz, that's me. Today we have a lot to go over. I didn't post anything on Saturday or Sunday because I was waiting to see what might come up this weekend. So let's get into um, what I found. Back on October 28th of this year, I found a tweet by General Flynn to be very interesting. He um he posted something and I'm gonna read it now. I'm gonna share my screen. Bear with me. So there was a letter by the former apostolic nuncio Archbishop Vigano's open letter to President Trump. He sent Trump a letter warning him, and General Flynn posted it back in October. This is the original tweet. Former Apostolic Nuncio to the U.S., Archbishop Vigano's open letter to President Trump warns of a Great Reset plot to destroy humanity. It is not surprising that the enemy is angered at being discovered, undisturbed. So when I originally found this letter, I was like, huh, but I had nothing to back it up. So now that there's claims of things happening with the Pope and how there's a rumor going around that the Pope was arrested. Now I find this letter to be a little more substantial. So we'll get to the letter, but I just want to point out that this weekend, um, the Vatican, there was supposedly a blackout at the Vatican, and supposedly, allegedly, the Pope was arrested. Now, this was posted first on the Conservative Beaver, and their track record's not that great. They literally have like a 50-50 track record. Um, Not saying that anything that they post is not real, but there have been times that people have fact checked, supposedly, and has said these things are not, correct. Now, this is not the only website reporting on this. But I also want to point out that there was an official blackout in Italy this weekend. You can see it. Um, it says here on Twitter on this thread, it says breaking alert following a nationwide blackout in Pakistan. There is now a widespread blackout at the Vatican. So supposedly there was a blackout in Pakistan and at the Vatican. Now people are, making their opinions. They're saying certain things. This guy says Russians testing their hacks so they can black out DC, which is pretty scary. And then it says, yeah, I know, sounds crazy, but wait and see. The part of people are mentioning a blackout will happen when they strike. Check that out. So just so you guys are aware. And then this lady posts, Italians are laughing on others' tweets about this. There is a huge snowstorm in that area, and they turned off Eiffel Tower and the Vatican's lights at a specific time every evening. It's called conservation. And the Pope arrest stuff was circulated last summer. Not quite true. Okay. So basically, kind of has people going in and out of what they think might be happening. Now, I know that it is a 50-50 chance that it did or did not happen. Okay. But wait till I read this letter and you're going to be like, oh my God. Okay. So, I actually um, I have this weird thing of, when I find information, even if I don't know how to back it up, or basically I go on feeling. So when I saw this tweet from General Flynn, I was like, he's not putting this out there for no reason. General Flynn is not a liar. He was proven not to be a liar, obviously. You know, the way that he was treated was very unjust. And for me, I just think that he's a stand up guy. You can have your opinion, but I have mine, and I think he's a stand up guy. He was trying to warn President Trump, and he didn't hold it against Trump of what ended up happening to him. So, moving right along. Now, the letter goes as follows. I'm going to make this a little bigger so we can see it. Now, this is the open letter to the President of the United States, Donald Trump. It was dated Sunday, October 25th, 2020. Mr. President, allow me to address you at this hour in which the fate of the whole world is being threatened by a global conspiracy against God and humanity. I write to you as an archbishop, as a successor of the apostles of the formal apostolic nuncio to the United States of America. I'm writing to you in the midst of the silence of both civil and religious authorities. May you accept these words of mine as the voice of one crying out in the desert. Okay? So he's basically telling him, like, listen, take my word for what it is because I'm not lying. So, as I said, when I write my letter to you in June, this historical movement sees the forces of evil aligned in a battle without quarter against the forces of God, forces of evil that appear powerful and organized as they oppose the children of light, who are disoriented and disorganized, abandoned by their temporal and spiritual leaders. Daily, we sense the attacks multiplying of those who want to destroy the very basis of society, the natural family, respect for human life, love of country, freedom of education and business. We see heads of nations and religious leaders pandering to the suicide of Western culture and its Christian soul, while the fundamental rights of citizens and believers are denied in the name of health emergency that is revealing itself more and more fully of instrumental to the establishment of an inhuman, faceless tyranny. Hmm. A global plan called the Great Reset is underway. Its architect is a global elite that wants to subdue all of humanity, imposing coercive measures which with which to drastically limit individual freedoms and those of entire populations. In several nations, this plan has already been approved and financed. In others, it's still in an early stage. Behind the world leaders who are the accomplices and executors of this infernal project, there are unscrupulous characters who finance the World Economic Forum and Event 201, promoting their agenda. Now, so he's basically telling the president, like, there is something going to happen. Um, there are people financing this. It's underway. Other countries have already accepted it. Basically, so there must have been a secret meeting about what was going to be planned and what they had in store for the rest of the world, which I think is beyond scary. Now, second letter of the page, because it's actually 4 pages long, so bear with me. The purpose of the Great Reset is the imposition of health dictatorship. Now that we're going through a global pandemic, doesn't this make sense? Aiming at the imposition of liberticidal measures hidden behind tempting promises of ensuring a universal income and canceling individual debt. The price of these concessions from the International Monetary Fund will be the renunciation of private property and adherence to the program of vaccination against COVID-19 and COVID-21. Oh my God. Promoted by Bill Gates with the collaboration of the main pharmaceutical groups. Beyond the enormous economic interests that motivate the promoters of the Great Reset, the imposition of the vaccination will be accompanied by the requirement of a health passport and a digital ID. Now let's pause right here. I read something and I saw a documentary, and it basically said that they wanted to basically um, have a digital, they wanted to insert a chip through vaccinations. Now that he's writing this is basically confirming that, and it's pretty creepy. And look at it says COVID-19, which we all know that It was probably supposed to go into effect in 2019, but COVID didn't start to happen until supposedly the end of 2020. COVID 21, now that we have this new strain of COVID, don't you think that this is all a little concerning that this man put out this letter October 25th of 2020 and now this is happening? Pretty crazy. So now, with the consequent contact tracing of the population, look at that, told you, chip, of the entire world, those who do not accept these measures will be confined in detention camps or placed under house arrest, and all their assets will be confiscated. Jesus Christ. That's pretty self explanatory. Basically, you get with the program or you don't, basically, and they will come for you. Mr. President, I imagine that you are already aware that in some countries a great reset will be activated between the end of this year and the first trimester of 2021. For this purpose, further lockdowns are planned, which will be officially justified by a supposed second and third wave of the pandemic. Look at that. He said this in October. You are well aware of the means that have been deployed to sow panic and legitimize draconian limitations on individual liberties, artfully provoking a worldwide economic crisis. In the intentions of its architect, this crisis will serve to make the recourse of nations to the Great Reset irreversible, thereby giving the final blow to a world whose existence and very memory they want to completely cancel. But this world, Mr. President, includes people, affections, institutions, faith, culture, traditions, and ideals. People, I'm sorry, and ideals, people and values that do not act like automations, who do not obey like machines because they are endowed with a soul and a heart, because they are tied together by a spiritual bond that draws its strength from above, from the God that our adversaries want to challenge, just as Lucifer did at the beginning of time with his non servium. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Craziness. Many people, as well as we well know, are annoyed by this reference to the clash between good and evil and the use of apocalyptic overtones, which, according to them, exasperates spirits and sharpens divisions. It is not surprising that the enemy is angered at being discovered just when he believes he has reached the citadel he seeks to conquer undisturbed. What is surprising, however, is that there is no one to sound the alarm. The reaction of the deep state to those who denounce its plan is broken and incoherent, but understandable. Just when the complicity of the mainstream media had succeeded in making the transition to the New World Order almost painless and unnoticed, all sorts of deceptions, scandals, and crimes are coming to light. This is from somebody from the Vatican. He wrote this to the president, October 25th, 2020. Okay? And we are seeing all of this play out. Okay. Until a few months ago, it was easy to smear a conspiracy theorists, those who denounce the terrible plans which we now see being carried out down to the smallest detail. No one, up until last February, would ever have thought that in all of our cities, citizens would be arrested simply for wanting to walk down the street, to breathe, to want to keep their businesses open. This is insane. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. Now, um, who want to go to church on Sunday, yet now it's happening all over the world, even in picture postcard Italy, that many Americans consider to be a small enchanted country. with its ancient monuments, its churches, its charming cities, its characteristic villages. And while the politicians are barricaded inside their palaces, promulgating decrees like Persian satraps, businesses are failing, shops are closing, and people are prevented from living, traveling, working, and praying. Now, what do we see all this summer? We were told that we couldn't go to church, we could not travel, that it was irresponsible, um, forcing us to be locked down. This is insane. Okay. All right. So, kind of lost my place for a second there. The disastrous psychological consequences of this operations are already being seen, beginning with the suicides of desperate entrepreneurs and our children, segregated from friends and classmates, told to follow their classes while sitting at home alone in front of a computer. Listen, guys, I don't know how many of you guys are parents, but maybe about 2 months ago, my children, we had a conversation and they both broke down crying to me, telling me that all of this has been strange, that not being able to go out with their friends, not being able to even talk to their friends, not even be able to be around kids their age is stressing them out. And they're young. My children are young. So to hear them say this, it broke my damn heart. Like, I had nothing to tell them. I couldn't tell them that things are going to get better or that eventually we're going to go back to normal. Like, that is scary as a parent when you can't even comfort your own children. Okay. And he makes a good point. Like, they're sitting alone in front of a computer. My children need to be with other children. Like, every children, all children need to be around other children. That's how they play. That's how they learn. That's how they de-stress. Like, this is one sad, sad thing that is happening right now in the world. Like, we have no answers to these things. So I'm hoping that the next 9 days, Trump pulls through. Seriously, because this is insane. In sacred scripture, St. Paul speaks to us of those who opposes the manifestation of the mystery of iniquity. The catechumen in the religious sphere, the obstacle to evil is the church, and in particular, the papacy. In the political sphere, it's those who impede the establishment of the New World Order. Jesus Christ. So, as in now clear, the ones who occupies the chair of Peter has betrayed his role from the very beginning in order to defend and promote the globalist ideologically, supporting the agenda of deep church, whose who chose from who chose him from its ranks. Mr. President, you have clearly stated that you want to defend the nation, one nation under God, fundamental liberties and non-negotiable values that are denied and fought against us today. It is you, dear President, who are the ones who opposes the deep state, the final assault of the children of darkness. For this reason, it is necessary that all people of good will be persuaded of the epochal importance of imminent election, not so much for the sake of this or the political program, but because of the general inspiration of your action that best embodies in the particular historical context, the world, our world, which they want to cancel by means of the lockdown. Your adversary is also our adversary. It is the enemy of human race, he who is a murderer from the beginning. Around you are gathered with faith and courage those who consider you final garrison against the world dictatorship. The alternative is to vote for a person who is manipulated by the deep state, gravely compromised by scandals and corruption. Check this out. This is coming from the Vatican itself, talking about the Bidens. This is the Vatican, okay? Um, who will do the United States what George Mario Bergoglio is doing to the church. Prime Minister Conte de Conte to Italy, President Macron to France, Prime Minister Sanchez to Spain, and so on. So this is already happening in these countries, he's saying. The blackmailable nature of Joe Biden, just like that of the prelates of the Vatican's magical circle, will expose him to be very unscrupulous, allowing illegitimate powers to interfere in both domestic politics as well as international balances. It is obvious that those who manipulate him already have someone worse than him ready. Jesus Christ, with whom they will replace him as soon as the opportunity arises. Now, what have they been saying? That he's not even going to be in power. That there's going to be people behind him. That he's basically going to be the puppet, and there's a bunch of puppet masters behind him. Okay, it's ridiculous. Okay, last part of the letter. Oh crap. So, and yet, in the midst of the bleak picture, this apparently unstoppable advance of the invisible enemy, an element of hope emerges. The adversary does not know how to love, and it does not understand that it is not enough to assure a universal income or to cancel mortgages in order to subjugate the masses and convince them to be branded like cattle. This people, which for too long has endured the abuses of hateful and tyrannical power, is rediscovering that it has a soul and is understanding that it's not willing to exchange its freedom for the homogenization of and cancellation of its identity. It is the beginning it is the beginning to understand the value of familial and social ties, the bonds of faith and culture that unite honest people. The Great Reset is destined to fail because those who planned it do not understand that there are still people ready to take to the streets to defend their rights, to protect their loved ones, to give future to their children and grandchildren. The leveling inhumanity of the globalist project will shatter miserably in the faces of the firm and courageous opposition of the children of light. The enemy has Satan on its side, he who only knows how to hate. But on our side, we have the Lord Almighty, the God of armies, arrayed by battle, and the most holy Virgin, who will crush the head of the ancient serpent. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Now, this is crazy, guys. He's basically telling us everything, and this was back in October that he sent this letter. Mr. President, you are well aware that in this crucial hour, the United States of America is considered the defending wall against which the war declared by the advocates of globalism has been unleashed. Place your trust in the Lord, strengthened by the words of Apostle Paul. I can do all things in him who strengthens me. To be an instrument of divine providence is a great responsibility, for which you will certainly receive all the graces of state that you need, since they are being fervently implored for you by many people who support you with their prayers. With this heavenly hope and assurance of my prayer for you, for the First Lady, and for your collaborators, with all my heart I send you blessings. God bless the United States. Now you see it, Carlo Maria Vigano. Okay, he sent this to him. He sent it when? Let's just go back. October 25th, 2020. Okay, so I wanted to point that out. This has been something that they have been planning for a long time. Okay, they have been planning this for a while. They knew that this was going to happen. I also think that, allegedly this is the reason why they wanted to change The Godfather 3. Rewatch that movie, guys. The Pope is heavily infiltrated. The Pope invests all the money of the church into the stocks, and he ends up losing all the money. He ends up having ties with the wrong family. Like, I know this is kind of out of there, but remember how I told you that they put everything into movies? They could have been putting this into play from then. I don't know when exactly the Godfather 3 came out, but this could have been something that they've been planning for at least 30 years. So, just so we all know. Now, moving on, let's point out that the fact that Trump has been banned from Facebook, Twitter, Google, Spotify, Snapchat, Instagram, Shopify, Reddit, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest. So you tell me, how is this even possible for a sitting president to be banned on all these platforms? Is disgusting to me. It's really disgusting. Now, these letters make sense because obviously they want to go against him. Why would they want to ban him on all these platforms if he has no merit of what he is saying and everything is, false of what the information that's being put out there by Linwood, by him, by anybody else? Why would they want to ban him? Why? Why would they want to ban him? He is the president of the United States. He has 9 days left, and you're scared of 9 days? Yeah, okay. Let's move on. I wanted to point out these tweets. Todd Starnes. Anybody else notice what no one else is talking about? Yeah, voter fraud. Nobody's talking about it. Not anymore. Now that this has happened, it's been they do this all the time when it comes to big things. When something wrong is going on, they come out with a distraction. Okay, just remember that every time in history, it's always been proven that people, they try to distract you with something else. Okay, I moved from a country that never had free speech to a country that used to have free speech. Used to, because we're being censored and banned. What is the first thing they do when communists seize power? They ban you guys. No free speech. You can't do anything. So the ones that voted Mr. Biden in, good luck. You guys did a great job. Beautiful. Smart asses. Kevin Sorbo, this is a blatant communist takeover. Change my mind. Yeah, please change my mind too, because seriously. Will Chamberlain, Apple is demanding that Parler be held responsible for the content posted by its users or it will take it off iOS. So basically, Apple is demanding that Parler waive its Section 230 protections while lobbying to maintain its own 230 privileges. Check that out. The hypocrisy in that is crazy. All right. It's worse. It's worse than Mark Zuckerberg said under oath. They don't coordinate the bans. They have an app for that. At Ted Cruz asked him that, and he denied. Obviously, they do. All the evil is done for the good of the people. All the evil done for the good of the people. Okay. So I wanted to point out this quote as well. The perfect dictatorship would have the appearance of democracy, but would basically be a prison. Check that out. The perfect dictatorship would have the appearance of a democracy, but would basically be a prison without walls, in which the prisoners would not even dream of escaping. It would essentially be a system of slavery where, through the consumption and entertainment, the slaves would love their servitude. And what's going on now? We're being told to shut up, be quiet. Joe Biden won. Stop trying to fight this. Basically telling us to give up our rights. Shut up. No free speech. We can't say whatever we want because now we're wrong because we have a mind and a thought, apparently. For reference, here's a Twitter April 3rd, 2020 letter to Senator Ted Cruz saying they do not ban any accounts of government officials even when American law requires them to do so because it's in public interest to read the tweet of those officials. Now, I have those letters, of course. I don't play games. All right, let's read this because obviously they went back on their word. Dear Senators Cruz, Cotton, and Blackburn and Rubio, thank you for your letter dated February 6, 2020, regarding Twitter's approach to potential sanctioned issues. We appreciate the opportunity to share more about our policies and our work to enforce them. There is no place on Twitter for terrorist organizations, violent extremist groups, or individuals who affiliate with and promote their illicit activities. The violence that these groups engage in and promote endangers the physical safety and security of people throughout the world. We classify violent extremist groups as those that meet all the following criteria: identified through their stated purpose, publications, or actions as extremist groups, have engaged in, currently engage in violence and or the promotion of violence as a means to further their cause, and target civilians in their acts and or promotion of the violence. We examine a group of activists, both on and off Twitter, to determine whether they engage and promote violence against civilians to advance political, religious, or social cause. Under this policy, a Twitter user is not allowed to affiliate with and promote the illicit activities of a terrorist organization or violent extremist group. Examples of the types of content that violate this policy include, but are not limited to, engaging in or promoting acts on behalf of a terrorist organization or violent extremist group, recruiting for a terrorist organization or violent extremist group, providing or distributing services, e.g., financial, media, propaganda to further terrorist organizations or violent extremist groups' stated goals, or using the insignia or symbols of terrorist organization or violent extremist groups to promote them. Now, second part of the letter. Twitter does not apply this particular policy to military or government entities. Right there, they lied. President Trump is a government entity. He is the leader of our nation, but he has been banned on all social platforms. Okay? The hypocrisy. Um, Because of the public interest in learning about these types of statements, in your letter, you state that the OFC sanctions generally prohibit U.S. persons and entities from providing goods and services to the U.S. government of Iran, making the Twitter platform available for use. However, as a tool of communication, it's broadly exempted from OFAC sanction prohibitions. Moreover, the public conversation occurring on Twitter is critically important during the unprecedented public health emergency with a with a critical mass of expert organizations, official government accounts, health professionals, and epidemiologists on our servers. Our goal is to elevate and amplify authoritative health information as far as possible. We consider official government voices on Twitter an important element of the service. Now, that was back in April, and look what happened in January. Not even a year later, and they went back on their word. The hearings are here. Let's just play this one. Thank God I record a lot of things, and because a lot of the things that I wanted to, the last couple of days, the stuff that I actually wanted to show you, I didn't record, and they were deleted from the internet. So I want to play you this.
Conservative voices on the internet. Reasonable observers are left to wonder whether big tech firms are obstructing the flow of information to benefit one political ideology or agenda. My concern is that these platforms have become powerful arbiters of what is true and what content users can access. The American public gets little insight into the decision-making process when content is moderated, and users have little recourse when they are censored or restricted. I hope we can all agree that the issues the committee will discuss today are ripe for thorough examination and action. I have introduced legislation to clarify the intent of Section 230's liability protections and increase the accountability of companies who engage in content moderation. This is to right size the liability shield and make clear what type of content moderation is protected. This legislation would address the challenges we have discussed while still leaving fundamentals of Section 230 in place.
Now, I just want to point out that the letter from the Archbishop came on October 25th. This hearing took place October 28th. Everything went from boom, boom, boom. Like all this happened right after another. People, they were concerned, but now they're not. We just had a hearing over it. So I'm just telling you that there is information out there. There is a hearing that we all had, and they voiced their concerns about it. But then again, this is happening now in January. Let's move right along. Angela Stanking, she was running for the one of the House candidates. Very smart lady. She's been through a lot. She turned her life around. She actually was pardoned by President Trump for a mistake in her life that she is no longer, she's no longer that person. So good for you, Angela. And I appreciate who you are, and I appreciate for what you stand for. She made this point, and I completely agreed with her. Everyone on the Epstein flight logs has endorsed Joe Biden. Every last one of them. Let that sink in. Stay focused, people, on our goals. Stay focused. For those of you that think that this human trafficking thing is a joke, I like I said, I record a lot of things. So let's just play this for the people in the back that think this is a joke or that think that it's non-existent.
It resulted in the arrest of 21 people, including 2 doctors. Full News reporter James Graham.
2 doctors. 2 doctors. Just so we just put that out there. 2 doctors.
Looked into the partnership between Beaumont PD and the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office.
A 2-day joint operation led to 21 arrests here in Beaumont, and tonight we're taking you inside what we know about the operation. Beaumont Police Chief James Singletary and Jefferson County DA Bob Wortham taking us inside the investigation. Investigators using internet websites and a new online strategy.
This was the first time that we've done it where we offered up kids for sale. Also, we targeted buyers before that were coming after adult victims, but this is really the first time that we'd offered up kids.
Sex trafficking on the rise in the U.S. and here in Southeast Texas. More than 234,000 victims trafficked in Texas at any given time. It's such a problem, Beaumont Police and the DA's office working side by side to stop these illegal operations.
We got with the district attorney's office, and they do a great job. And we've had a gentleman from the attorney general's office that helped us along, and so it worked out very well.
Among those charged, 2 doctors, one from Houston and another from Beaumont. At least half of the arrests involved suspects thinking they were talking to a child under the age of 18.
We have people in our community that are considered professionals, that are former law enforcement officers, that have been arrested.
You hear that, right? The corruption goes down to even to police officers that are involved in this. This is coming from them. So,
and this is a problem that we have to take seriously, because this is modern day slavery, what's going on.
Chief Singletary hopes the operation over the weekend acts as a strong deterrent against human trafficking.
there you go. Modern day slavery. Let me read some other tweets. So I came across this. It says, don't care. Have y'all seen the story about how real Donald Trump is in debt to 1.1 billion can't take care of his own money. How can we expect him to take care of our taxpayers' money? Probably went over y'all heads. Diamond and Silk. I love Diamond and Silk. They're awesome. I have nothing bad to say about them. They're smart women. They bring um, light to problems that need to be taken care of. So I like them. Now it says the next person, the proud American girl, says, "Don't care. Have y'all seen the story about how real Donald Trump gave up his life to drain the swamp and isn't taking a salary?" Now let's just talk about this real quick. He didn't have to do any of this. He doesn't have to. No other president has put in place more funding, more acknowledgement to the issue than Donald Trump he has put in so much funding into human trafficking. Like I said, he made January the Human Trafficking Awareness Month. I didn't see anybody else do this. No, I nor did I see it actually become a real topic up until Donald Trump was actually in office. Okay? So keep that in mind. Did you see how hiding Biden and kneeling Kamala sold out US to China? Research or keep, you know? Basically it's like see something, basically if you hear none, see none, you basically don't know what you're talking about. Keep it moving, basically she's trying to say. Riding the Dragon, Fall of the Cabal is a few to start with. So basically, she's giving him the research. Like, go look this up. Exactly with the whole Fall of the Cabal thing, BitChute, you guys got to get on there. If you're not really a person that is actually convinced by all this, even though all of this is happening, censoring of free speech and all of this, then you really need to do your research, especially now. Right now is very critical that you actually do the research. So do the research, people. And then Tracy Shannon, she basically said that he has a bunch of real estate and that he is never really in debt because he can sell a few things off and come out of debt. So moving right along. Now, this was on Parler. Please read the message below carefully. And it's from Linwood. We have one president at a time. Our president is Donald J. Trump. When President Trump speaks, listen carefully. And he basically confirmed that Trump is in Albine, Texas at the Navy Defense Command Center. So while Congress is on Capitol Hill committing treason surrounded by the military who is helping them by Pence's orders, Trump is in Texas at the command center watching. You think if the military didn't have his back, he would be there? Or he would be able to escape Washington on the AF-1? So that's what Linwood is saying. I also wanted to point this tweet out too. All tyrannies rule through fraud and force, but once the fraud is exposed, they must rely exclusively on force. George Orwell. George Orwell is a smart man. So let's get back to this. Now, Parler. Parler, guys, is gone. I don't know how. Overnight. It was here last night. I woke up this morning. Nothing. I'm refreshing my page. Nothing. Keep that in mind. New York Post. Bear with me. All right. So Parler CEO Mark Matzey said Sunday that the devastating big tech ban of the right-wing app could put the company out of business, calling it an assault on everybody. So you're telling me that we weren't able to say what we wanted on Twitter, which is freedom of speech, guys. Once again, freedom of speech. We were censored. Then we went on an app, on a website and an app that freedom of speech is not censored, and they shut us down too. You're telling me that we're not under attack right now? Does what needs to happen for people to wake up? What else? For them to actually go into your house or force you into concentration camps, like, like before. I just It's just so speech is under attack. We all know. His comment came a day after Amazon kicked the booming app off its web hosting service. Listen, they had a a hearing with Jeff Bezos, Jack Dorsey, Mark Zuckerberg. I forget the name of the guy that owns Google, but they were all on trial and they all told that they couldn't do all of this. No, actually, not trial, but they were all at the hearing, told that they couldn't do any of this stuff. But then again, here it is, now January, and they all have way too much power. So it, it's devastating, is what it is. Matsy said Fox News. They all work together to make sure all the at no, I'm sorry. They all work together to make sure we would lose access. But the actual shutting of all of our okay. Off tonight. Oh man, whoops. Off the internet. So look at that's why last night was the last day of Parler on the internet. They made an attempt not to only kill the app, but to actually destroy the entire company, he said. And it's not just these three companies. Every vendor from the text message service to email provider to our lawyers all ditched us on the same day. Today, Amazon joined tech giants Apple and Google in suspending Parler from its servers, citing an increase in violent content on the social networking services have become a favorite of President Trump after popular sites like Twitter and Facebook began blocking or adding disclaimers to some posts, including Trump's tweets. Some? No, that was all of his tweets. He were putting disclaimers on. But critics complained that Parler, which had nearly 1.5 million downloads this weekend alone, was increasingly home to violent rhetoric, including prior to the siege of the U.S. Capitol last week by extremists and Trump supporters. Okay, sure. Followed by Apple. Matsy argued Sunday that they are trying to falsify, referring to the riot on Wednesday. It would put anybody out of business, he said, of the tech bans. This thing could destroy anybody. And they knew that. They knew that. They felt threatened. So they took them down, point blank. So we're going to try our best to get back online as quickly as possible, but we're having a lot of trouble because if every vendor we talk to says they won't work with us, he said. Because if Apple doesn't approve and Google doesn't approve, they won't. Which I think all the rest of you vendors are suckers. That's my opinion about you guys. This is an attack on America and you turn your back on them? Sure, okay. Just remember that we're going to remember that, just so you know. Not in a violent way, just in case. Just in case to put it out there, since, Given us no legitimate remedy, Matsy added, they just don't want us on the internet. They want to get rid of us. computer is not letting me actually show you.
Right now is California Congressman Darrell Issa. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. A lot to get into with you. I want to also get your take on what social media has done. But first, what are the chances of impeachment from your standpoint?
They're probably 100%. Nancy basically got back to being speaker by going to the left, by appeasing AOC and the others. So I would assume she has the votes on a purely partisan basis with one or two Republicans to impeach the president. Of course, it's a very different story in the Senate, and it's a very different story when constitutionally you can't impeach somebody who leaves office. So the reality is, time-wise, he will not be impeached and removed.
Well, that's what Alan Dershowitz was saying yesterday, and we ran a soundbite of that earlier, that an impeachment trial wouldn't begin until 1 o'clock on January 20th after the president is a former president. So a trial would never actually happen. So what is this then? Is this for show? Is this so that he won't run again? If the reality of it, with 9 days left, that it actually can't happen in terms of a trial?
Well, it's probably similar to shutting off the Twitter feed of somebody after his presidency is essentially over. It's kicking when he's down. It's getting rid of 88 million people who follow and listen to the president. There's no question at all that I think the liberals saw an opportunity, a misstep by the president that they're going to overplay, and they're overplaying it as we speak. They're overplaying a lot of things, including the death of these people on Capitol Hill. It was a terrible event, terrible things. People need to be punished, but of course they're trying to use it to imply that there's only one side that has violence, and completely ignoring all of last year and the unchecked violence from the left.
Yeah, well, last year we saw pictures too often to mention of Molotov cocktails being thrown in cops' faces and bricks being thrown in windows, and of course the chop zone in Seattle. And it just went on, statues coming down, and you really didn't have any commentary from your colleagues on the left while all of this was happening. Actually, so you make a really good point. Thanks for making it. Let me ask you about big tech. You've worked a lot on the censorship issues and the power and dominance of these companies. That dominance has been on display these last couple of days with a coordinated effort to get Trump off of social media, whether it be Twitter banning the president permanently, or Google and Apple also doing the same, Instagram. And now you've got Amazon saying, well, we're going to pull the servers from Parler. What's your take on what we're seeing from big tech, and what's the remedy there, Congressman? Can anything be done to get that power in check?
Well, I think the most disconcerting one is the most hidden one, the Amazon Web Services. They've basically told everyone, including the federal government, go to us, we'll take care of you in the cloud, we'll be more reliable than your own servers. And now what they've done is they've decided to clearly put politics into the decision process. Jeff Bezos and his team made a decision, and the decision was based on their left-wing employees threatening a riot. Basically, Amazon has the largest workforce, of course, in America, and they're scared of their own workforce, so they did this in reaction to that pressure. Can you imagine the tens of thousands of businesses that look and say, well, I've been paying Amazon Web because they were going to be reliable. They're a utility. And now suddenly they're a utility that if you say the wrong thing, you're going to get your electricity shut off, so to speak.
Yeah. Can you do anything being in the minority in terms of Section 230?
We probably can't do anything immediately. One of the interesting things, though, is that the last major hearings that were held last year, the Democrats were screaming monopoly, monopoly, monopoly about these companies. And it's actually their monopolistic power that they're asserting right now. The fact that they can effectively shut down Parler, put a multi-billion-dollar business out of business overnight, it now creates that. But if I can switch back to one thing that hasn't been covered in the press enough, when you look at these people who broke into the Capitol, look at how many of them came with tools and came prepared for violence. That is not the result of something that President Trump said that morning. That's a result of some bad people who planned to do bad things well before that morning. And I think it's extremely important as we go into the impeachment that it's not about what the president said that morning in a speech, but in fact about people who came with ill intent that day. And I think that's going to be extremely important in the debate, certainly as to the Senate.
That's a very important point. I'm glad you made it. Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Let's get straight to the point. Wednesday was horrific enough, but unbelievably, since then, the Democrats and their Silicon Valley allies somehow have managed to make it worse. It started with a mob laying siege to the Capitol, totally abhorrent, unequivocally condemned. Now, it's some of the most powerful people in the world laying siege to you. Pelosi with her spiteful, vindictive, vengeful rage, Jeff Bezos, Jack Dorsey, Mark Zuckerberg, Apple's Tim Cook with their unprincipled, menacing, incendiary purge. These people say they want to unite the country. On Wednesday, the country was united in utterly condemning the violence and chaos in the Capitol riot. Now, thanks to Pelosi, Bezos, Dorsey, Zuckerberg, and Cook, everyone's back in their tribal camps. Nice work, guys. The establishment may think they can get rid of Trump, but they can't get rid of the 75 million Americans who voted for him. They can't get rid of the multiracial working class coalition he assembled, the movement he built, the ideas he championed. And right now, after all that's happened, those people, that movement who believe in these ideas, they still back Trump. We have to understand why. Trump's critics say he has no empathy. As is so often the case, they are guilty of the exact same thing they accuse others of. Some of us reject violence, hate, intolerance, disrespect unconditionally. It's all wrong, wherever it comes from and whoever it's aimed at. But that is not the standard followed by the left, by the establishment, by the media. Yes, they can condemn violence when it's committed by people they despise, but they not only excuse hate, intolerance, and disrespect, they practice it on a daily basis. Since this show began 3.5 years ago, we've worked hard to try and avoid the conflict culture that's tearing America apart. We've advocated, constructively I hope, for positive populism, pro-worker, pro-family, pro-community, pro-America. We've engaged respectfully on that agenda with Democrats like Ro Khanna, Tim Ryan, and John Delaney. I want us to look ahead positively tonight. But first, we have to be clear about how we got to this point. Clarity means seeing things not just from your point of view, but from others. Listen to this.
We know that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said that a riot is the language of the unheard.
Civil rights revolutionary Martin Luther King Jr. once said, but in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it that America has failed to hear?
I agree with that, and I tried to do that with the racial justice protest this summer. Of course, we condemned the violence and destruction that cost at least 30 people their lives. But we didn't run around saying that everyone who supported BLM, who advocated for BLM, who gave a platform to BLM and its ideas, who, in the approved term, enabled BLM, we didn't say all those people had blood on their hands because 30 people died. We didn't put all the protesters in the same basket. We distinguished between the rioters and those protesting peacefully for a righteous cause. And I supported that cause while condemning the violence and killing. Many of you didn't like what I said. I argued that there is racial discrimination, which we do need to address, and that actually it's conservative ideas like strong families and school choice that are best placed to address it. I argued for police reform, not police retreat. And in exactly the same way, every reasonable person can surely distinguish between the rioters on Wednesday and those protesting peacefully. Major changes to the voting system with the virus as pretext, but long pushed by Democrats for partisan ends, rushed through in certain battleground states in ways that clearly violate the Constitution. Those changes have undermined confidence in our elections. That is real. You won't make it go away by calling it Trump's big lie and Fox News propaganda. It's 4 out of 5 Republicans, 40% of Americans, 4 million Democrats. We'd love an audience that big. If the Capitol is the symbol of our democracy, elections are our actual democracy. Last summer, I argued for police reform. No reasonable person could now deny that we need electoral reform. But no one on CNN or MSNBC or anywhere else on the left tries to see it from anyone else's point of view. Instead, it's all hyperbolic rage from morning till night. Traitors, sedition. Trump supporters have blood on their hands. They complain about incendiary rhetoric, then spend all day spouting it. They say that anyone who questions the election incited actual violence. Does that mean all these statements incited actual violence?
Go to the Hill today. Get up and please get up in the face of some Congress people.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. And maybe there will be.
The unrest in the streets, which that Democrat member of Congress was calling for, claimed at least 30 lives. So is it right, is it reasonable to say she has blood on her hands? Of course not. So why did they all say that now? Because they've become so self-righteous, so sanctimonious, they've lost all self-awareness. Listen to this exchange on The View last week.
The rhetoric in the media needs to be more respectful of people, of Trump voters.
We lost 4 years ago. Now, he's lost this year. You're not allowed to kvetch and poop all over this. This is not the American way.
You're not allowed to kvetch and poop over an election you lost, she says. What? After 2016, the Democrats and the media did nothing but kvetch and poop. Kvetching and pooping was how they filled their days for 4 years. From even before the inauguration, they worked to overturn the election, delegitimize President Trump, and demonize his supporters. And yet, incredibly, a smart and thoughtful person like David Plouffe, Obama's campaign manager, said this not long ago.
I never thought I'd see a day where you saw pretty much an entire party in this country refused to accept election results.
What does he think his party did? After 2016, they say, oh, but Hillary conceded. And it's true that she read out a 20-minute speech. But she spent the next 4 years walking back her concession as she and her entire party refused to accept that Trump was a legitimate president.
He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president. He's an illegitimate president in my mind.
Folks, look, I absolutely agree.
Well, Freedom Boating at Freedom Boat Club,
literally, I want you guys to see this because I'm on StreamYard and it keeps kicking me out of my own account. You will see the twice that it's kicked me out, slowed my actual streaming. It's crazy. This is the second time it's kicked me out. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching Jazz That's Me. Let me know what you guys think. Leave comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Happy Monday, guys.